Dim the lights. Let the weight of your day sink into the mattress. You are safe, you are still, and the only thing left to do is listen as the night gently carries you away. Your world is soft and quiet and kind. But history is not, so let's slip into a different night. A harder one. A night where fists, not whispers, broke the silence. A night where a life ended long before the dying started. Let's go back. You think it starts with a drum. You think it starts with a flag, a speech, a patriotic tear in your eye as you kiss your sweetheart goodbye and stride off toward a horizon painted in glory. No, it starts with a fist, a pounding on the door so hard the wood splinters. It's before dawn. The chickens aren't even awake. Your father is on his feet, his face old in the candlelight, and your mother's hand is at her throat because they know. Everyone knows what that sound means. The door doesn't open. It explodes. And there he is, silhouetted against the grey pre-dawn. Not a hero, not a noble officer, but a gendarme with a week's worth of stubble and a list in his hand that holds your name, written in ink by a man who has never bled. There is no speech. No, for the glory of France. The man's eyes are empty. He reads your name. It isn't a question. It's a verdict. Your mother begins to weep, a low, animal sound you've never heard before. Your father stands rigid, his work-worn hands clenched at his sides. He's a strong man, but he's not strong enough to stop this. No one is. This is the Empire, and the Empire is hungry. It doesn't ask. It consumes. They give you minutes, not to pack, not to prepare your soul for war, but to become a ghost in your own life. You pull on your boots, the same ones you wear to till the field. You don't own another pair. Your mother shoves a loaf of bread and a lump of hard cheese into a cloth sack, her tears falling on the fabric. This is the last thing she will ever give you. You don't know that yet. You're still thinking this is a mistake, a terrible dream from which you will soon awake. But the gendarme's hand on your arm is real. The rough wool of his coat is real. The cold morning air hitting your face as you're pulled from your home. That is real. You look back once. You see your mother in the doorway, her shape already blurring in the mist and your own disbelieving tears. You see your father, his shoulders slumped, defeated by a piece of paper. You see the lamp in the window, the one that has always guided you home. And then you are gone, taken. The door to your life swings shut, and you're on the other side, marching down a mud-rutted road toward a future that smells of damp wool and other men's fear. You're not a soldier. You're a possession. You and a dozen other boys from the village, yanked from their beds, their barns, their lives. Jean, the blacksmith's son, his hands still black with soot. Pierre, who was to be married in the spring, his face pale and confused. Luc, the quiet one who could whistle any bird song, now silent as a stone. You are herded together, a flock of stunned sheep by men on horseback who look at you not as countrymen, but as inventory. This is the Grande Armée, not a legion of heroes, but a collection of bodies. Your body, and it no longer belongs to you. The march to the depot is 20 miles. It is your first taste of what is to come. Your boots, perfect for a day in the fields, are not made for this. The leather rubs. A hot, sharp pain blooms on your heel. You don't complain. No one does. The gendarmes don't tolerate complaining. One of the boys, Michel, tries to run. He makes it 10 paces into the woods before a horseman cuts him off, not with a sword, but with the flat of his hand, knocking him into the dirt. He's dragged back, sobbing, and made to walk at the front, a bloody nose dripping onto his shirt. The message is clear. There is no out. There is only forward. The depot is a nightmare of noise and stench. 1,000 men and boys are crammed into a field that has become a sea of churned mud and human waste. There is no order, only chaos. The air is thick with the shouts of sergeants, the lowing of confused livestock, and the cacophony of a dozen different dialects: Breton, Occitan, Flemish. You're not among Frenchmen, you're among the conquered and the coerced. A Pole with a haunted look stares through you. A Dutchman mutters curses in a language you don't understand. An Italian boy, no older than 14, cries quietly for his mother. This is the multicultural glory of Napoleon's empire, a Babel of the doomed. And then you are processed. It is not an enlistment, it is a branding. You stand in a line that doesn't move for hours. When you finally reach the front, a man with a ledger and a permanent sneer barks questions at you. Name, age, village. He doesn't look up. He scratches your existence into his book with a nib that screeches against the paper. Another man shoves a bundle into your arms. It is heavy, coarse, and smells of mildew and lye. Your uniform. You're ordered to put it on. Right there, in the mud, in front of everyone. You shed your homespun clothes, the last tangible pieces of your old life. You pull on the trousers. They're too tight in the thigh and too long, already frayed at the cuffs. The shirt is scratchy wool, not soft linen. Then the coat, the famous blue coat. It is stiflingly hot, the wool thick and unyielding. The buttons are cold brass. You fumble with them, your fingers clumsy. Finally the boots. They are not your boots. They are stiff, unfeeling things, shaped like boots but built like instruments of torture. They are too big. When you take a step, your foot slides, and the raw blister on your heel screams in protest. This is it. The transformation is complete. The farmer is gone. In his place stands a conscript, a number, a body in an ill-fitting shell of blue. They shave you then. A bored-looking man with a pair of dull shears hacks at your hair, then takes a razor to your scalp, leaving nicks and burns. It's not for hygiene. It's for uniformity. It is the final erasure of your individuality. You run a hand over your bare, cold scalp and feel like a stranger to yourself. You look at the others, and they all have the same hollow look in their eyes, the same shorn heads. You are interchangeable. That night you are assigned to a regiment, the 33rd Line. You don't know what that means. You're shown to your barracks, a patch of muddy ground under a leaky canvas sheet. You're given your rations, a piece of bread that is more rock than food, and a thin, acidic wine that tastes like vinegar. You're so hungry you don't care. You gnaw on the bread until your jaw aches, and you wash it down with the wine, which burns your throat. You try to sleep, but the ground is cold and hard, and the man next to you coughs through the night, a wet, rattling sound that speaks of sickness. You shiver in your new coat, the wool already damp from the mist. You think of your bed at home, the straw mattress, the warm blanket, the sound of the wind in the oak tree outside your window. It feels like a memory from someone else's life, a story you were told once, a long time ago. This is how it begins. Not with glory, but with theft. They stole you from your bed. They stole your clothes. They stole your hair. They are in the process of stealing your name. Soon, they will try to steal your soul. And the terrifying truth, the one that will keep you shivering in the dark long after the coughing man has fallen silent, is that they will probably succeed. You didn't join Napoleon's army. You were consumed by it. And the digestion is the war. You think it's about looking like a soldier. You see the paintings, the neat rows of blue and white, the gleaming buttons, the tall, proud shakos making every man look like a giant. You think it's about pride, about identity, about standing shoulder to shoulder with your brothers as a single, unstoppable force. Let me correct you. The uniform isn't what you wear, it's what wears you. It is a cage of wool and leather, designed not for the man inside it, but for the machine that owns him. It is a lie stitched together with thread and dyed with the sweat of 1,000 dying men. From the moment they force it onto your body, it begins a slow, intimate war against your skin, your muscles, your very will to live. Let's start with the coat, that iconic blue coat that looks so sharp on a parade ground. It's made of the cheapest, scratchiest wool they could find, dyed with a pigment that fades in the sun and bleeds in the rain. It's about as breathable as a coffin lid. In the summer, when the sun beats down on the march, it becomes a portable oven. The wool soaks up your sweat, turning heavy and foul, clinging to your back like a wet animal. The salt from your sweat crystallizes on the inside, rubbing, your skin raw until your shoulders and back are a single burning wound. You can't take it off. To be out of uniform is a crime. So you bake, you itch, you slowly cook inside your own personal hell. And in the winter, that same coat becomes a frozen shroud. The dampness from your own body and the relentless cold seeps into the fibres. It freezes solid, a stiff, icy carapace that cracks and creaks with every movement. The wind cuts through it like the blade it was never meant to stop. You shiver uncontrollably, your teeth chattering a frantic, useless rhythm against the cold. There is no warmth to be found. The uniform is not a shield against the elements. It is a collaborator. It holds the cold against you. It holds the heat against you. Its only consistent function is to make misery more efficient. Then come the trousers. They are a masterpiece of impracticality. Tight across the thighs, restricting your stride, making every march a battle against the fabric. Yet they are loose and baggy enough below the knee to snag on every thorny bush, every stray branch, every piece of rubble on a battlefield. They are thin. They wear through at the knees and the seat in a matter of weeks. You watch the men who've been here longer, and you see their trousers patched with scraps of leather, with cloth torn from a dead man's pack, with bits of string and sheer, desperate hope. When yours tear, and they will, you will do the same. There are no replacements. There is only this one set. You will sleep in it, march in it, bleed in it, and if you are unlucky, you will rot in it. But the true architect of your suffering, the relentless daily tormentor, is the boot. Oh God, the boots! They're not crafted. They're cobbled together in hellish factories by men who have never walked a mile in their lives. They are stiff, unyielding leather, often moulded to a generic foot-shaped idea that has nothing to do with your own. They are too big, and your foot slides around, blistering your heels and toes with every step. They're too small, and they crush your feet, turning your nails black and making every mile an exercise in agony. There is no breaking them in. There is only your foot breaking down. Within a day you have blisters. Within a week those blisters have burst, and the raw pink flesh underneath is exposed to the gritty, filthy interior of the boot. The pain is a constant, screaming companion. You learn to walk in a new way, a limping, careful gait that favours the least wounded part of your foot. You see veterans walking like that, and you understand now, it's not a swagger, it's a controlled stumble. Then comes the damp. You march through rivers, through mud, through rain. The boots get wet and stay wet for days. The leather warps. The skin on your feet turns white and spongy. It begins to peel away in great sickening sheets. The smell that comes from your own feet is a sweet, rotten odour that you will come to associate with yourself. This is trench foot. It is not a condition. It is a process of decay. And if you're lucky, it only hurts. If you're not, the flesh turns black and you get to visit the surgeon and is sore. And crowning this entire ensemble of suffering is the shako, that tall, imposing hat that makes every soldier look like a hero from a distance. It is a cylinder of felt and leather, heavy, unbalanced, and utterly useless. Its primary function is to make you a better target. In the summer, it acts like a chimney, funneling heat onto your scalp until your head swims and you feel faint. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes, and there is no relief. In the winter, it does nothing to keep your head or ears warm. The cold wind whips around it, and the chin strap, pulled tight to keep it from blowing away, cuts into your flesh, leaving raw, chafed sores. It is a ridiculous, oppressive weight on your head, a constant reminder that appearance, the illusion of discipline and uniformity, is infinitely more important than your comfort, your health, or your life. You have one of everything. One coat, one pair of trousers, one shirt, one pair of boots. There are no extras. There is no laundry. The uniform becomes a second skin, a crust of dirt, sweat, blood, lice, and things you don't dare identify. It stiffens with grime. It crawls with life. You feel the lice taking up residence in the seams. Their tiny bites a constant maddening itch on your back, your chest, your groin. You try to pick them off, crushing them between your thumbnails with a faint pop. But for every one you kill, 100 more hatch in the fertile filth of your own clothing. This is the reality of the famous uniform. It is not a symbol of honour. It is a delivery system for misery. Every gleaming button is a lie. Every inch of blue wool is a promise of pain. The army doesn't clothe you to protect you. It dresses you for your own funeral. You will march in this cloth coffin. You will fight in it. You will die in it. And long after you've fallen face down in the mud, the uniform stubbornly will remain, waiting for the next poor soul to be stuffed inside, so the machine can continue its hungry, endless march. You think war is about battles. You think it's about the charge, the flash of steel, the roar of the cannon. That's the punctuation, the scream at the end of the sentence. But the sentence itself, the sentence is written in mud and blood and blisters. The sentence is the march. The march isn't something you do before the war. The march is the war. It is the primary, grinding, soul-destroying activity of your new existence. Battle is a brief, violent fever. The march is the long, wasting disease that kills you. It begins without ceremony, a shouted order in the pre-dawn gloom. The sergeants moving through the camp, not with inspiring words, but with kicks and curses. Alive! Get up, you lazy sacks of offal! The road is waiting! You stagger to your feet, your body still screaming from the previous day's miles. Every muscle is a knot of pain. The blisters on your feet shriek in protest as you force them back into the leather torture chambers you called boots. You haven't eaten. There is no time. You shoulder your pack, a monstrous, ill-balanced thing filled with everything you own and nothing you need, and you fall into a line that is already moving. Just like that, you are marching. There is no speech from a handsome officer on a white horse. There is only the sound of thousands of boots hitting the dirt in a rhythm that is not a drumbeat of glory, but the dragging cadence of exhaustion. 20 miles. That is the daily quota. It is not a suggestion. It is an expectation, as fixed and merciless as the sunrise. 20 miles on roads that are not roads but cart tracks turn to soup by rain and the passage of the endless hungry snake of the army. 20 miles through forests so thick the sun never touches the ground, where roots reach up to trip you, and low-hanging branches claw at your face in that ridiculous shako. 20 miles across fields of mud that suck at your boots with every step, each footfall a battle of will against the earth itself, until the simple act of lifting your leg feels like dragging an anvil from the depths. 20 miles over cobblestones that hammer your already ruined feet, sending jolts of pain up your legs with every step, turning your blisters into open, weeping wounds. Your world shrinks to the heels of the man in front of you. You do not look at the horizon. The horizon is a taunt, a distant, unreachable dream. You look at his muddy heels. You match your pace to his. If he stumbles, you stumble. If he stops, you stop. But he must not stop. No one can stop. To stop is to fall behind. To fall behind is to be left. There is no medical wagon, no sympathy for the straggler. You see them sometimes on the side of the road. Men sitting with their heads in their hands, men lying face down in a ditch, men simply standing and staring into the trees as the endless column flows past them. They are ghosts already. Their uniforms are the same as yours, but their eyes are empty. The army moves on, the sound of the drums fading, and you know what happens to them. The locals who hate you for eating their land bare, or the partisans who hate you for existing, or most simply, the cold, or the hunger, or the sheer accumulated weight of the miles. They just cease, and the pain. You cannot comprehend the pain until you have lived it. It is not a single sensation. It is a symphony of agony, the raw, burning fire from your shoulders where the pack straps dig in, the deep, muscular ache in your thighs and calves, a constant dull throb that becomes the background music of your life. But the star of the show, the lead soloist, is always your feet. After the first 5 miles, they are numb. After 10, they are screaming. After 15, they are a distant, pulpy mess at the end of your legs, a landscape of burst blisters and raw flesh, grinding against the stiff leather with every step. You can feel the warm seep of blood filling your socks. You can smell the peculiar, sweet-rotten stench of your own decaying skin. You learn to walk with a strange, rolling gait, placing your foot carefully to minimize the agony, but there is no escaping it. The march is pain, and pain is the march. Food is a rumor, a fantasy. You're burning a furnace of calories with every step, and they throw a thimble of water on the fire. A hardtack biscuit so durable, you could use it to shingle a roof. You have to soak it in water or coffee for an hour just to risk breaking a tooth on it. Sometimes a strip of salted meat, so full of salt it parches your throat and does nothing to fill the hollow, gnawing void in your stomach. You are always, always hungry. It is a hunger that goes beyond stomach pangs. It is a deep, systemic emptiness that lives in your bones. Your body starts to consume itself. You feel your ribs more prominently. Your cheeks grow hollow. Your vision sometimes swims with a faint, shimmering light, and you realize you are marching in a state of near starvation. Water is another gamble. You drink from puddles, from streams clouded with the mud churned up by tens of thousands of men and horses ahead of you, from ponds that have a dead sheep bloating on the far bank. You are so thirsty you don't care. Dysentery is a certainty, not a risk. It's just a question of when it will grip your bowels and turn your insides to liquid fire. You learn to march and shit at the same time, a humiliating, degrading skill that is necessary for survival. There is no privacy, no dignity. There is only the relentless forward motion. At the end of the day, when the order finally mercifully comes to halt, you don't cheer, you don't celebrate, you simply stop. Your body, held upright by momentum and fear, gives out. You collapse where you stand. You don't pitch a tent. You don't build a shelter. You're too tired. You lie on the ground, in the mud, in the rain, in your filthy, stinking uniform, and you pray for unconsciousness. Sleep isn't rest. It's a temporary cessation of movement. It's a small death. And sometimes it becomes a permanent one. You wake up in the morning to find the man next to you didn't. He just froze in the night, or his heart gave out, or he simply decided not to wake up. You look at his pale, still face and feel a stab of envy. His march is over. And then, in the grey light of dawn, you hear it again. The sergeant's voice. "Alive! Get up, you miserable wretches!" And you do. You force your broken body upright. You jam your ruined feet back into your boots. You shoulder the pack. You take your place in the line. The horizon is still there, just as far away. The road is still there, just as long. This is the war, not the brilliant charge, not the heroic stand. This is the erosion, the slow, daily grinding down of your body, your spirit, your hope. You're not a soldier becoming a man. You're a man becoming a ghost, one painful, bloody step at a time, and the march has only just begun. You think an army runs on discipline, on orders, on drills, on the crisp, clean logic of a general's map. Let me show you the engine room. Let me show you the grinding, smoking, blood-slicked gears of the machine you have just become a part of. This isn't about discipline. It's about mechanics. It's about taking a human being, a farmer, a thief, a boy, and stripping him down to his most basic functional components. The ability to hold a musket, to walk forward, and to not break until you're told to break. There is no boot camp. There is no inspiring speech. There is only the machine, and your place in it is to be a cog that doesn't squeal too loudly when the pressure is applied. Your training? You've already had it. It was the march. That 20-mile-a-day death trudge was your orientation. The blisters on your feet were your diploma. The hollow hunger in your stomach is your class schedule. The real army, the one behind the uniforms and the marching columns, is a brutal ecosystem of survival, and the veterans are its apex predators. They don't teach you how to be a soldier. They demonstrate how to remain alive. Your instructor isn't a cheerful drill sergeant from a storybook. He's a corporal named Bertrand, a man from Marseille who is missing 2 fingers on his left hand and has the eyes of a dead fish. He doesn't look at you. He looks through you, as if assessing a piece of meat for its gristle content. He doesn't explain the manual of arms. He barks a single command: port arms. And when you fumble with your musket, he doesn't correct you. He slaps the back of your head so hard you see stars. Do it faster, is all he says. The lesson isn't in the words. The lesson is in the sting on your scalp. Speed is life. Hesitation is death. There is no why. There is only do. He doesn't teach you how to shoot with precision. What's the point? In the smoke and the screaming chaos of a volley, you're not aiming at a man. You're aiming at a wall of smoke. He shows you how to load. And he doesn't show you on a clean parade ground. He makes you kneel in the mud, your hands shaking from cold and exhaustion, and forces you to tear the paper cartridge with your teeth, tasting the bitter, acrid black powder on your tongue. He makes you pour it down the barrel, ram the ball, and wadding down with a force that rattles your teeth, all while he screams in your ear that the enemy is 10 paces away and your mother was a whore. This is the training, not to load a musket, but to load a musket when you are terrified, when you're exhausted, when your world has shrunk to a tiny, frantic series of motions between one breath and the next. The officers are another species entirely. They exist in a different universe, one of horses and maps and tents that don't leak. You see them sometimes cantering past the marching column, their uniforms clean, their boots polished, their faces smooth and unconcerned. They are the engineers of the machine. You are the raw material. Your life is a number on a casualty report to them. A lieutenant, a boy with a face too young for the gold on his shoulders, barks an order at your company. His voice is high and reedy. He is afraid too, but his fear is different. His fear is of looking weak in front of his colonel. Your fear is of the cannonball that might erase you in the next second. These are not the same fears. The real power, the grinding daily authority belongs to the non-commissioned officers, the sergeants. They are the foremen of this hellish factory. Men like Sergeant Dubois, a hulking brute from Alsace with a voice like grinding gravel. He doesn't lead. He herds. He is a master of applied pressure. He identifies weakness like a vulture spots dying meat. A man with a limp is singled out for extra abuse. A man who complains about his rations is given double duty. A man who looks like he might cry is mocked until he either hardens or shatters. Dubois isn't cruel for the sake of cruelty. It's efficiency. A broken cog must be identified and hammered back into shape, or discarded before it can damage the machine. Sentiment is a luxury the machine cannot afford. You learn the real rules not from any manual, but from watching, from the whispered warnings in the dark. You learn that when the sergeant asks for a volunteer for a foraging party, you do not raise your hand. The foraging party is just a fancy name for the group most likely to be ambushed by partisans or caught by cavalry. You learn that the best place to sleep is not in the centre of the bivouac, where the sergeants will trip over you, but on the edge, close to the trees, where you might have half a second's warning before a night attack. You learn to never ever be the last man in the column or the first man in a charge. The machine has a voracious appetite for the men on the fringes. There is no justice. There is only consequence. A man from your squad, Philippe, is caught stealing an extra loaf of bread from the supply wagon. He is not given a trial. He's not sent to a stockade. Sergeant Dubois simply makes an example of him. He's tied to a wagon wheel and flogged. 50 lashes with a knotted rope. You are forced to watch. The sound is wet and heavy. Philippe passes out after 20. They throw a bucket of water on him and continue. By the end, his back is a bloody pulped mess. He will die of infection 3 days later, feverish and alone in the mud. The lesson is not do not steal. The lesson is do not get caught. The machine punishes failure, not sin. This is the education. This is the system. It is not designed to build you up. It is designed to burn away everything that is soft, everything that is individual, everything that is human. It burns away your compassion when you step over a dying man because stopping would mean your own death. It burns away your fear when you realize that being afraid is as useless as being brave. It burns away your hope because hope is a distraction from the grim, minute-to-minute business of survival. You don't become a soldier, you become a component. You learn your function, to march, to load, to fire, to stand, to die when the machine requires it. You stop thinking of yourself as Jean, the farmer's son from Burgundy. That boy is gone. He was flogged to death by the miles, starved to death by the rations, frozen to death by the nights. What is left is a husk in a blue coat, a thing that obeys not out of loyalty, but out of a deeply ingrained animal instinct to avoid pain. You are part of the machine now, and the machine is always, always hungry. You think you know hunger. You've skipped a meal. You've felt your stomach rumble an hour before supper. That's not hunger. That's an inconvenience. Hunger in the Grande Armée is a third presence, a silent skeletal companion that marches between you and the next man. It is a constant gnawing void in your gut that is more loyal to you than your own mother. It is the first thing you feel when the cold jerks you awake in the morning, and the last thing you taste before exhaustion pulls you under at night. It is a pain that starts as a dull ache and sharpens into a blade that twists with every empty step. The army doesn't run on patriotism. It runs on calories, and you are always bankrupt. On paper, it sounds survivable. The official ration: 1 pound of bread, half a pound of meat, a quarter litre of wine. On paper, it's a feast. In reality, it's the cruelest joke ever told. The supply wagons are the stuff of myth. A rumour of plenty that is always just over the next hill, in the next village tomorrow. The wagons get stuck in the same mud you march through. They break axles on the same terrible roads. They are ambushed. They are looted by desperate men from other regiments. They are simply lost. The food, if it exists at all, arrives spoiled, crawling with weevils, or not at all. The bread is a dark, dense brick, harder than stone. You have to soak it for an hour in water or coffee, and even then you crunch down on the gritty bodies of weevils that have made their home inside. It's extra protein, the veterans joke with hollow eyes. You don't laugh. The meat is a gamble. Salted, tough and stringy. It comes from animals you don't ask questions about. Sometimes it's pork. Sometimes it's beef. Sometimes it's chevron, old goat or horse, or something else entirely. You chew until your jaw aches, swallowing chunks half chewed because your body is screaming for any kind of sustenance. The wine is thin, sour, and often watered down to nothing, but it burns a small warm path to your empty stomach, and for a few blessed minutes it blurs the edges of the hunger. But it never fills the hole. Nothing fills the hole. So you become an animal. Your world shrinks to a single, primal quest. Find food. The discipline they drilled into you, the formation, the drills, it all melts away in the face of this most basic need. You learn to forage, but you are not alone. You're one of tens of thousands of locusts, and the land is stripped bare behind you. You dig for roots with your bayonet, tearing up fields until your fingers are bloody. You strip bark from trees and boil it into a bitter, worthless soup. You catch grasshoppers and eat them raw, their brittle legs catching in your throat. You learn which mushrooms are safe and which will make you see God, or die meeting him. It's a constant, desperate scavenger hunt with death holding the scorecard. A dead horse is a banquet. The moment one of the artillery horses stumbles and doesn't get up, a frenzy begins. It's not even cold before men are on it with knives, sawing away strips of flesh from the haunches. There is no ceremony, no disgust. There is only opportunity. The meat is tough and gamey, but it is meat. The liver, the heart, these are prized cuts fought over. The hooves are boiled for hours to make a thin, greasy jelly. The hide is cut away for patches. Nothing is wasted. You join in, your own knife flashing, your own hands becoming slick with blood that is not human for once. You eat the stringy, half-cooked meat, and for a few hours the gnawing stops. You feel almost human. Then the march resumes, and the emptiness returns, sharper than ever. You raid villages. Not for glory, not for strategy, but because you smelled a chicken or saw a farmer carrying a sack of potatoes. The civilians look at you with pure, undiluted hatred. They see you not as a soldier, but as a plague, a blight of blue locusts eating them out of house and home. They hide their food in cellars, bury it in their gardens, swear they have nothing. But a starving man has a predator's senses. You can smell the cellar dirt on a turnip. You can see the fear in a woman's eyes when you look at her pigsty. You take what you find. You are past shame, past morality. If you don't eat, you can't march. If you can't march, you're left to die. It's a simple, brutal equation. And the officers? They eat. Not like kings, but they eat. As you chew your weevil-ridden biscuit, you sometimes catch a scent on the air near the command tent. The rich, soul-destroying aroma of roast duck, of fresh bread, of coffee that isn't made from burnt barley. The smell is a physical blow. It makes your stomach cramp and your fists clench. It is a reminder of the hierarchy of this hell. Your hunger is a logistical problem. Theirs is an inconvenience. You don't rebel. You can't. The machine has you. The only thing worse than a hungry soldier is a dead one, and they have the power to make the decision in an instant. This is the true face of war, the one they never paint. It's not the glorious charge. It's a man on his hands and knees grubbing for a half-rotten potato in a field that's already been picked over by 1,000 other men. It's the dark, brittle jokes you make about which of your comrades looks the most edible, just to keep from screaming. It's the slow, chilling realization that you would do anything for a full belly. You would steal from a dying friend. You would loot a church. The line between man and beast, between soldier and savage, is erased by the relentless, grinding ache of hunger. You don't fight for France. You don't fight for Napoleon. You march, you load, you fire, for one reason and one reason only. The vague, desperate hope that on the other side of this battle, in the next town, there might be something to eat. You don't eat to survive. You survive to maybe eat. That is the contract. You've signed with the devil, and the price is your humanity. Bon appétit. You think you understand the march now. You think the blisters, the mud, the 20-mile days have taught you everything there is to know about suffering. You are a child. You've been playing at misery. Russia isn't a country. It's an education in annihilation. It is a vast, white, silent professor whose only lesson is how a man is unmade. You didn't march into Russia. You were swallowed by it. The further you walked, the more the world unravelled, until there was nothing left but the cold, the white, and the slow, certain knowledge that you were already dead. It began with such noise. The Grande Armée, over 500,000 strong, a glittering, noisy, confident beast pouring across the Niemen. Drums beating, bands playing, eagles gleaming. We were invincible. We were history on the march. But Russia doesn't fight like other countries. It doesn't meet your noise with its own. It answers with silence. A deep, unsettling quiet that swallows the sound of your boots, your drums, your very breath. The Russians didn't stand and fight. They just retreated, deeper and deeper into that endless, flat, hypnotic landscape. They burned everything as they went, not just forts and barracks, everything. Villages, crops, barns, fields of grain. They left us a kingdom of ash and smoke. It was a new kind of warfare. They weren't fighting our army. They were fighting the land itself, and they were winning. The heat of that summer was a dry, dusty furnace. The same roads that would later become frozen rivers of hell were then oceans of fine, choking dust that filled your lungs, coated your tongue, and got into the mechanism of your musket. The wells were poisoned with dead animals. The streams were dry. You marched through a landscape of ghosts, your thirst a raging fire in your throat with nothing to drink but your own despair. And still, we marched deeper, chasing an enemy we never saw toward a victory that felt less like a goal and more like a rumour. Then, the prize, Moscow, the ancient city. We saw the domes of the churches gleaming in the sun. A ragged cheer went up. We had done it. We had reached the heart of the beast. We stumbled into the city not as conquerors, but as ghosts, our uniforms in tatters, our faces gaunt with hunger, and we found nothing. The city was empty, a beautiful, ornate, deserted shell. And then the fires started, not from battle. The Russians burned their own holy city rather than let us have it. We stood in the streets watching the world burn, the heat blistering our faces, and for the first time a cold, sharp fear cut through the numbness. We had won nothing. We had marched into a trap the size of a country. That's when the silence truly began. The silence of a decision being made far above us. The order to retreat. There were no drums for this march, no songs, just the shuffling of a million boots in the snow that had begun to fall. It wasn't snow like you know it. It was a fine, sharp, endless powder that fell from a sky the colour of lead. It didn't blanket the world, it consumed it. The retreat from Moscow wasn't a military manoeuvre, it was a slow-motion massacre written in ice. The cold didn't just bite, it devoured. It slid through the thin wool of your coat like it wasn't there. It seized your muscles, making every step a conscious, agonizing effort. Your breath froze in your beard, coating your face in a mask of ice. Your eyelids would crust shut with frozen tears if you blinked too long. The veterans told you not to sleep. Sleep is death's cousin, they'd whisper, their lips blue. But the cold was a seductive liar. It promised warmth, a deep, soft warmth, if you just sat down for a moment, just closed your eyes. You saw them everywhere, men sitting with their backs against trees, looking as if they were in a peaceful slumber, a faint smile on their frozen faces. They weren't sleeping. They were never going to wake up. Your feet, which you thought had known the pinnacle of pain, discovered new depths of agony. They froze inside your boots. You couldn't feel your toes, and that was a blessing at first. Then the feeling returned as a burning, screaming fire as the flesh began to die. Trench foot was a summer luxury. This was frostbite. Your toes turned white, then yellow, then a terrible dead black. Men would snap them off like twigs, their bodies too frozen to even feel the break. You'd see the dark, rotten stumps, and you'd know that if you lived, the surgeon's saw was waiting. If you lived. Discipline, that brittle illusion, shattered completely. The Grande Armée became a mob, a river of blue-clad misery flowing backward. Regiments dissolved. Officers abandoned their men, concerned only with their own survival. You stopped saluting. You stopped caring about anything but the man in front of you, his back the only thing separating you from the howling void. You looted your own supply wagons, fighting your comrades for a mouldy crust of bread. You boiled the leather of your cartridges and ate it, your stomach cramping around the indigestible hide. You gnawed on the bark of frozen trees. Then came the wolves. Not the fairy tale creatures, but sleek, grey, starving shadows that paced the column just outside the firelight. Their howls were the soundtrack to our nightmare. They were patient. They knew we were dying. They would follow a limping man, waiting for him to fall, and then they would be on him in a flurry of snarls and tearing flesh. His screams would be cut short, and the only sound would be the wet cracking of bone. You didn't stop. You couldn't. You just tightened your grip on your musket and prayed you wouldn't be next. This was the Russian campaign. Not a war of battles, but a war of attrition against the soul. The land itself was the enemy, and it was undefeated. The Grande Armée of 600,000 became a legend of loss, a ghost story. Fewer than 1 in 10 of us ever saw France again, and those who did, we didn't come back whole. We left parts of ourselves in the snow, our toes, our fingers, our hope, our humanity. We were living monuments to a single, terrible truth, that nature doesn't care about empires. It doesn't care about glory. It only cares about survival. And in that final silent exam, we had failed. You hear the drums long before you see the field. It's not a heroic rhythm, not a call to glory. It's a frantic, pounding heartbeat that gets inside your chest and hammers against your ribs, a second pulse you can't escape. It's the sound of the machine demanding its fuel. The march ends here. The theory of war is over. This is the practice. And the practice is chaos, smoke, and a screaming red reality that has nothing to do with the neat lines on a map. They line you up, shoulder to shoulder with men who smell of piss and fear, because you all smell of piss and fear. The air is tight, electric. You can feel the tremor running through the man next to you. Or maybe it's you. You're in the second line. You're lucky, they say. You have a moment to watch the first line, a wall of blue and white, march forward into the open ground. They look so ordered, so perfect. From a distance, it almost looks like the paintings. Then the world explodes. The cannons don't roar, they tear the air in half. A flat, concussive thump in the distance, and then a fraction of a second later, the high, tearing silk sound of a ball coming for you. You see it before you understand it. A dark blur, too fast to follow, carving a channel through the first line. Where there were men, there is now a red mist, a spray of pink, a leg, spinning lazily through the air, still wearing its boot, a head, simply gone. The line closes up. They march into the space where their comrades just cease to exist. They have to. The drums are still beating. To stop is to die. To break is to be shot by the sergeants behind you. Then the smoke comes. The thick, choking, eye-watering fog of 1,000 muskets firing black powder. It doesn't clear. It settles. It becomes the atmosphere. A stinging, acrid haze that burns your lungs and turns the sun into a dull orange coin. You can't see 20 paces ahead. You can't see the enemy. You see shapes moving in the gloom. Silhouettes. Is that one of ours? Is it theirs? It doesn't matter. The order comes. First line, present, fire. A ragged volley cracks out, a sound like 1,000 sticks snapping at once. The smoke thickens. You're blind, firing at ghosts. Then it's your turn. Second line, advance. You step forward, over a body, your boots sinking into something soft and wet. You don't look down. You never look down. You raise your musket. The order. Fire! You pull the trigger. The kick is brutal, slamming into your shoulder. The flash from the pan is bright in the smoke. For a second you are deaf, your ears ringing from the blast. Then you hear the screaming. Not the roar of cannons, but the high, thin, personal screams of the wounded. Men begging for their mothers in languages you don't understand. Men trying to hold their intestines in with hands that are no longer there. The sound is worse than the sight. It gets inside you. The order comes again. Reload. This is the drill. The only thing that matters. Your hands. Shaking, fumble for the cartridge. Bite the cartridge. Taste the bitter gunpowder. Pour. Ram. Prime. The motions are mechanical, a desperate prayer against the chaos. You do it again and again. You're no longer a man, you're a loading, firing machine. The man to your left grunts and spins, a dark hole suddenly in his chest. He looks surprised. He falls. You step over him. You have to. The line must hold. Then a new sound cuts through the din. A high, piercing shriek. Bayonets. The enemy's close. The smoke parts for a moment and you see them. Not a faceless horde, but boys just like you. Their eyes are wide with the same terror you feel. Their uniforms are a different colour. That's the only thing that matters. The order screams through the smoke. Charge bayonets! The metallic rasp of 1,000 bayonets fixing is one of the most terrifying sounds on earth. It is the sound of the abstract becoming horrifically personal. There is no skill here, no elegant fencing. It is a butcher's work. You lunge forward because the man behind you is lunging. You shove the long, triangular blade into a body. It doesn't slide in clean. It tears. It grates against bone. The man you stab makes a sound, a wet, gurgling gasp. He smells of garlic and sweat. You have to put your boot on his chest to pull the bayonet out. It comes free with a sickening pop. You turn. Another man is there. You parry his thrust clumsily, your musket locking with his. You are face to face. You see the dirt on his cheek, a fresh cut over his eye. You knee him in the groin, and when he doubles over, you bring the butt of your musket down on the back of his head. You feel the skull give way. You don't feel anything about it. The ground becomes slick. Not with mud, but with blood. Men slip and fall in it. You slip. You get up, your hands and knees covered in a dark, sticky paste. The noise is a physical thing. The screams, the explosions, the officers' whistles, the constant maddening drums. You are no longer thinking. You are an animal. You use your hands, your teeth, a broken musket stock. You see a man gouging out another's eyes. You see a man biting another's throat. This is the truth of close combat. It is the removal of civilization, a raw, screaming reversion to something primal and vicious. And then, as suddenly as it began, it starts to fade. The enemy drums are retreating. The musket fire becomes sporadic. The cannon fire stops. An eerie, ringing silence descends, broken only by the moans and whimpers of the wounded. The battle is over. You won, or you lost. In this moment it feels exactly the same. You don't cheer, you don't celebrate. You lean on your musket, your body trembling with spent adrenaline and sheer exhaustion. You look around. The field is not a field anymore. It is a butcher's yard, a chaotic sprawl of broken bodies and shattered equipment, stretching as far as you can see through the thinning smoke. The air smells of blood, of shit, of gunpowder and of cooked meat. The crows are already landing, their black forms hopping from one still body to another. They got here faster than the medics. You clean your bayonet on a dead man's coat. You check your ammunition. You find a canteen on a corpse and drink the warm metallic-tasting water. You take a half-eaten piece of bread from another man's pack. You do this without thought, without emotion. You are numb. The horror is too vast to process. You just wait, because the drums will start again. They always do. The battle was just a violent, bloody comma in the long, grim sentence of the march, and the sentence is not over. You think the musket is the instrument of war. You think the bayonet is the final argument. You are wrong. Those are the tools of men, limited by a man's arm, a man's courage, a man's hatred. Artillery is different. Artillery is a god. An indifferent, distant, and utterly merciless god that speaks in thunder and answers prayers with shrapnel. It doesn't care about your name, your rank, or the locket with your sweetheart's picture you keep in your breast pocket. It deals in physics, not sentiment. And in its domain, You are not a soldier. You are mass. You are probability. You are a temporary arrangement of flesh awaiting its turn to be disassembled. You don't see it coming. You hear it. A dull, muffled thump from a mile away, a sound that seems to come from the earth itself. Then the whistle. A high, shrieking tear in the fabric of the air that climbs in pitch until it dominates everything. In that second, every man in the formation is the same. Every muscle tenses, every breath is held. You are not a thinking creature. You are a rabbit frozen in a field, hoping the shadow of the hawk passes over someone else. The sound is a mathematical promise. The equation of trajectory and powder charge is solving itself, and the answer is about to be written on the ground. On you. The impact doesn't just kill, it erases. A 12-pound iron ball landing in a dense column of men doesn't leave bodies. It leaves a red smear. It carves a channel, a lane of pureed meat and shattered bone. One moment, there are 6 men standing there. The next, there is a pink mist and a trench in the mud. You feel the pressure wave of its passage, a hot concussive wind that punches your chest. You are splattered with the warmth of the man who was standing where the ball landed. You look down at the gore on your coat, and your mind, struggling to catch up, can only register one thing. It missed me. It missed me because it chose him. There is no relief in this. Only the chilling understanding that you are in a lottery and the draw is continuous. Then there is the canister. If the cannonball is the hammer of God, canister is his shotgun. The gun erupts and a cloud of metal balls, hundreds of them, fans out. It turns the cannon into a giant room-clearing weapon. There is no dodging it. No bravery can stop it. A single round can decimate an entire section of the line. It doesn't just punch neat holes. It shreds. It rips men apart at close range. A man hit with canister doesn't just fall, he comes apart. Legs are severed, torsos are opened, a line of men is transformed into a twitching, screaming heap of raw meat. You are ordered to advance, and you do, stepping over what's left of your comrades, your boots slipping in their entrails, the sounds of their unfinished screams following you. You have to ignore the hand clutching at your ankle. You have to ignore the man who is just a torso begging for water. The machine demands forward motion. The true genius of artillery, its most profound cruelty, is its randomness. A musket ball at least is aimed. A bayonet requires a personal enemy. But a cannonball, it is fate, blind and arbitrary. The bravest man in the company, the one who stood tall and steady, can be vaporized because he was an inch too far to the left. The coward, the one who was trembling and hiding behind others, might have the ball land 10 paces behind him, killing the men he was hiding from. There is no justice in its distribution of death. It is pure, statistical chance. You can do everything right. Keep your line, hold your nerve, follow orders, and still be turned into a red stain because a gunner you will never see adjusted his elevation by a single, meaningless degree, and you cannot fight back. You stand there. You stand in your neat, orderly lines, presenting a perfect target, and you take it. You absorb it. Your only defense is hope. The hope that the next thump, the next whistle, is not your name being called. The psychological toll is worse than the physical. It breaks men who have never flinched at a bayonet charge. Strong veteran sergeants are sometimes found after a bombardment, crouched and rocking, their minds shattered not by what they saw, but by the helplessness of waiting for the invisible scythe to fall. You learn to read the sounds. The short, sharp whistle that ends in a sudden, deafening crash means it's close. The longer, fading whistle that passes overhead is a reprieve, a death, given to another part of the line. You learn that the second you hear the thump of the cannon firing, you have a few heartbeats of suspended animation, a tiny pocket of time where you're already dead, you just don't know it yet. And when the whistle ends and the world does not explode around you, you are granted a temporary pardon, a stay of execution. You're not safe. You're just still alive. This is the king of battle. It doesn't just kill bodies, it kills spirit. It imposes a terrible, passive reality on the soldier. You're not an actor here. You're the audience. You're the recipient. Your job is to stand and to wait and to hope that the mathematics of death does not select you for its next demonstration. You march, you fire, you charge, all under the watchful, unblinking eye of this distant, thundering deity. And its sermon is always the same. You are small, you are fragile, and you are infinitely, effortlessly replaceable. You think getting wounded is a matter of luck. A scrape, a gash, a ticket home if you're fortunate. Let me educate you. A wound in Napoleon's army isn't a twist of fate. It's a death sentence, read aloud in the slow, agonizing dialect of infection and gangrene. The battlefield might kill you quickly. The surgeon, he takes his time. They call it medicine. They use titles like Surgeon Major and Chief Physician. Don't let the words fool you. What happens behind the blood-soaked canvas of the field hospital isn't healing. It's butchery, sanctioned by the state and performed by men whose souls have been worn down by the endless screaming conveyor belt of broken bodies. You won't be carried there by gentle hands. You'll be dragged by a pair of exhausted comrades, your leg a useless, mangled piece of meat, the bone gleaming white through the red. Or you'll crawl, your guts on fire from a bayonet puncture, leaving a slick trail behind you. The hospital isn't a building, it's a barn, a stable, a patch of muddy ground behind the lines where the screams are concentrated. The first thing that hits you is the smell, a thick, sweet, and putrid cocktail of blood, pus, and human waste, so powerful it seems to coat your tongue. The second thing is the sound. Not the organised chaos of battle, but the raw, personal, animal sounds of men in ultimate agony. Begging, weeping, calling for mothers who are hundreds of miles away. They lay you on a table, not a clean surgical table. A door ripped from its hinges, a plank from a shattered wagon still crusted with the gore of the last 10 men. The surgeon approaches. He isn't a villain. He's just a man, but a man who has seen too much. His apron is a stiff brown crust of dried blood. His hands, when you see them, are permanently stained, the nails blackened. He has the eyes of a man who's already dead, who just hasn't stopped moving yet. He looks at your leg, the one with the musket ball shattered deep in the femur, or the one that's already turning a sickly black from gangrene. He doesn't see a limb. He sees a problem, a mechanical failure, and he has only one tool for mechanical failures. It'll have to come off, he says. His voice is flat, bored. It's not a diagnosis. It's a pronouncement. There is no discussion. There is no anaesthetic. There is no morphine dream to float you away from the horror. You get a leather strap to bite down on. You get 2 or 3 burly assistants to hold you down, their faces turned away. They've seen it too many times. They know what's coming. The surgeon picks up his saw. It isn't sterilised. The concept doesn't exist. It was rinsed in a bucket of water after the last amputation, the water now pink and cloudy with the remnants of another man's life. Then it begins. He doesn't make a careful incision. He doesn't tie off the arteries first. He cuts. A deep, brutal slash around the leg to get to the bone. The pain is so vast, so all-consuming, that your brain simply cannot process it. You bite through the leather strap, you scream, but the sound is lost in the chorus of other screams. You thrash, but the men hold you fast. Then you hear it, the sound that will haunt whatever is left of your life. The grating, grinding rasp of the saw on your own bone. It's a wet, gritty, shuddering vibration that travels up your entire body. It feels like it takes an hour. It probably takes 30 seconds. You feel a final, sickening crack and a sudden, grotesque release of pressure. It's off. They toss the limb onto a pile in the corner, a heap of arms and legs already swarming with flies. They might cauterize the stump with a hot iron. The sizzle and smell of your own burning flesh, a new layer of hell. Or they'll tie off the major arteries with a piece of catgut and slap a bandage on it. A bandage that's been used before, washed in the same dirty water as the saw. The whole process from the first cut to the tossed away limb takes less than 2 minutes. You are the 11th amputation of the morning. The surgeon is already looking past you, toward the next broken body being dragged in. If you are lucky, you pass out. Most do. You wake up hours later, lying in the straw in a barn packed with other moaning, dying men. This is where the real battle begins. The battle against infection. The bandage on your stump is already soaked through, a dark, damp bloom of blood and pus. The wound is a seething, angry red, hot to the touch. The smell is unmistakable, the sweet, cloying stench of gangrene. They call it hospital gangrene. It spreads like a curse. Flies lay their eggs in the open wound. Maggots writhe in the decaying flesh. Sometimes, ironically, they eat the dead tissue and save you. Most of the time, they're just part of the rot. For wounds that don't require amputation, the treatments are a carnival of medieval horror. They'll pack a gaping wound with a poultice made of mouldy bread, animal fat, and herbs gathered from a ditch. They'll bleed you for a fever, weakening you further. They'll give you an enema of vinegar for dysentery, which feels like pouring fire into your guts. There are no antibiotics, no understanding of germs. Your body is a battlefield, and the doctors are incompetent generals leading your defences to slaughter. You drift in and out of fever dreams. You hallucinate. You see your home, your mother's face, the green fields of your childhood. Then the pain drags you back to the barn, to the smell of death, to the man next to you who has stopped moaning and started the low, gurgling rattle that means the end is near. You look at the bloody bandage where your leg used to be, and you try to remember what it felt like to run. You can't. This is the butcher's art, not the saving of lives, but the management of death. If you survive the sore and the sepsis, if you somehow cheat the gangrene and the fever, what are you? You are a cripple. You are a burden. You're shoved a crutch and maybe a few coins, and you're sent back to a world that has no use for a one-legged farmer. You didn't escape the war. You just got a preview of the long, slow, painful diminishment that is the rest of your life. The battlefield offered a quick, clean end. The surgeon offers a drawn-out, screaming prologue to the grave, and in this army, his was the busiest practice in the entire bloody empire. You think you know what it means to be dirty. You've gotten mud on your boots, sweat on your shirt after a long day's work. That is not dirt. That is cleanliness. That is a state of grace you can no longer even remember. In the Grande Armée, you don't get dirty. You become filth. Your body is not your own. It is a landscape, a thriving, stinking ecosystem of decay, a walking, breathing colony of pestilence and rot. Cleanliness isn't a luxury. It's a forgotten language, a myth from a previous life. From the moment they shove you into that uniform, you enter a symbiotic relationship with filth, and it is a partnership that will only end when you are consumed by it. It starts with the small things, the lice. Within a week, you feel them. A tiny, crawling sensation in the seams of your trousers, a pinprick itch on your scalp, a maddening tickle in your armpits and groin. At first, you try to fight them. You sit by the fire at night when you have the energy, and you pick them off one by one. You crush them between your thumbnails with a faint, satisfying pop, a tiny speck of your own blood smearing your skin. It is a futile Sisyphean task. For every one you kill, 100 more hatch in the warm, fertile wool of your uniform. They are your constant companions. They feed on you. They lay their eggs on you. You are their world. Then come the fleas, leaping, insidious things that leave constellations of red, angry bites on your ankles and wrists, and the ticks, burying their heads in your flesh, growing fat and bloated with your blood. You learn not to scratch too hard because you will open weeping sores, and in this world, every open wound is a gateway for infection, for gangrene, for the slow, systemic poison that turns your blood to fire. Your feet are a separate kingdom of horror. You march for days in wet boots. The leather, once stiff, becomes a sodden, rotting casing. The socks inside, if you still have them, disintegrate into a pulpy, foul mash. The skin on your feet turns white and spongy, peeling away in great, sickening sheets. The smell is unique, a sweet, cloying, rotten odour that announces your presence long before you're seen. This is trench foot, but it's more than that. It's living death of the flesh. The skin sloughs off like boiled meat. The toes turn black, the tissue necrotic and dead. You can sometimes see the bone, and when it gets bad enough, when the blackness begins to creep up your foot, you know what comes next. The surgeon and his saw. They don't cut off your foot to save your life. They cut it off because it has already died, and they are preventing the rot from claiming the rest of the carcass. Your mouth becomes a cavern of decay. Your teeth, with no cleaning, no care, slowly turn brown and loose in your gums. Your gums themselves become swollen, spongy, and they bleed at the slightest pressure. Chewing the rock-hard biscuit becomes an exercise in agony, leaving your bread tinged pink with your own blood. This is scurvy, the body's slow internal collapse from a lack of everything good. It turns your skin sallow, your eyes sunken. You bleed from your gums, your nose, your eyes. You look like a walking corpse long before death has the courtesy to take you. And then there is dysentery, the great leveller, the constant cramping liquid fire in your bowels that respects no man, no rank, no courage. There are no latrines. Not really. There are just ditches, or the nearest bush, or the side of the road. You learn to march and shit yourself simultaneously, a humiliating, degrading skill that is essential for survival. There is no privacy, no dignity. You squat in full view of the column, your insides turning to water, and you hope no one notices, but they are all doing the same. The smell of human excrement becomes part of the air you breathe, mixed with the scents of blood, sweat and gunpowder. It is the perfume of the Grande Armée. Water is not for washing. It is for not dying of thirst, and even that is a desperate gamble. You drink from streams clouded by the upstream passage of the entire army, a broth of mud, manure, and the runoff from 1,000 other men washing their wounds and their backsides. You drink it because the alternative is a thirst that will drive you mad. You swallow the parasites, the bacteria, the invisible poisons, and you pray your body is strong enough to fight them off. It usually isn't. The final, overwhelming reality is the smell. You stop noticing it after a while. Or maybe your brain just surrenders, unable to process the constant assault. It is a complex, layered stench. The high, sweet note of rotting flesh from a nearby corpse, the sharp, acrid tang of sweat and unwashed bodies, the thick, foul odour of the latrine ditch, the metallic scent of old blood, the sulphurous reek of black powder, all of it, marinating together in the heat or festering in the cold, clinging to your uniform, your skin, your very soul. You don't live in filth. You are a component of it. You are a host, a breeding ground, a walking testament to the absolute victory of decay over civilization. The uniform that was once a symbol of pride is now a crawling, stinking second skin, a physical manifestation of your own ruination. You don't dream of glory anymore. You dream of a hot bath. You dream of clean, dry cloth against your skin. You dream of the simple, impossible luxury of not smelling your own putrefaction. But that is a dream for another world. In this one, you are filth, and you will march and fight and die in a state of profound, inescapable, and absolute squalor. You think an army is held together by patriotism, by belief in a cause, by the stirring words of a general, by the love of a homeland. That is a story for children and politicians. Out here, morale isn't a flag, it's a bottle. It's the numbing burn of cheap wine in an empty stomach. It's the shared, hollow laugh at a joke about dysentery. It's the 1,000-yard stare at a man who's seen his best friend's head vanish in a puff of red mist and has nothing left inside him to scream with. There are no therapists here, no letters from home with perfumed paper. There is only the horror and the two ways to face it: swallow it whole or let it swallow you. The officers don't care about your spirit. They care about your functionality. Can you march? Can you load your musket? Can you stand in line when the cannonballs start tearing it apart? Your emotions are not a consideration. They are a liability. Grief is a form of cowardice. Fear is a contagion to be stamped out. If the man you shared your last crust of bread with yesterday is today a twitching, gut-shot ruin at your feet, the expected response is a grunt, a shrug, and a careful step over his body as you advance. Any more than that is a weakness the machine cannot tolerate. So you build walls inside your mind. You brick up the windows. You bar the doors. You go numb. And when the numbness isn't enough, you drink. Everyone drinks. It is the primary tool of mental maintenance. Wine, if you can get it. Brandy, if you've been lucky loot in a farmhouse. More often, it's some foul, fermented gut rot distilled from God knows what in a camp still. A liquid that tastes like poison and burns like acid. You don't drink for the taste. You drink for the effect. You tilt your head back and you feel the fire slide down your throat, and for a few precious minutes the edges of the world soften. The memories blur. The screaming in your head drops to a whisper. It doesn't make you happy. It makes you absent. And absence in this world is the closest thing to peace you will ever find. You cling to superstition like a drowning man to splinters. A lucky charm, a rabbit's foot, a smooth stone from your village, a crucifix bent from a spent musket ball. You see men praying, but not to the God of the churches. They pray to the foxhole God, the silent, desperate deity you bargain with in the seconds before a charge. Just let me live through this one. Just let me not be the one the cannonball chooses. I'll be better. I'll go to Mass. I'll never complain again. And when the prayer isn't answered, when the man next to you is the one chosen, you don't lose your faith. You just understand that the God here is capricious, and you find a different bottle for the next night. There is a brotherhood, yes, but it's not the noble band of brothers you read about. It's a desperate, feral pact. It's the man who shares his last sip of water with you not out of love, but because he knows that tomorrow your roles might be reversed, and he will need that debt repaid. It's the dark gallows humour that blooms in the mud, jokes about the sergeant's face, about the consistency of the stew, about which of you has the rottener feet. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because the alternative is to scream until your throat bleeds. This brotherhood is not born of affection, but of shared trauma. It is the camaraderie of the damned. Some men can't fake it. Some men just break. You see it happen. It's not always loud. Sometimes a man just stops talking. He becomes a ghost, his eyes empty, marching and loading and firing by pure muscle memory. He vanishes one night, wandering into the woods without his musket, seeking a silence more final than the army's. Other times it's loud. A man will start shrieking during a bombardment, crying for his mother, clawing at his own face. Or he'll turn on his comrades in a blind rage, needing to feel something, anything, other than the gnawing helplessness. When this happens, no one helps him. You can't. You just look away. You step around him. He is a cog that has shattered, and the machine is already moving on, leaving the broken piece behind. Desertion is a constant whispering temptation. It whispers to you when you're shivering in a snowdrift, when you see another friend turn to pulp, when your stomach is so empty it feels like it's digesting your spine. It offers the illusion of control, of freedom, but it's a lie. The Empire is everywhere. To run is to become a traitor, and traitors are hunted down with a special performative viciousness. You've seen the firing squads. You've seen the bodies hanging from gibbets, their faces pecked away by crows, a warning to the rest of you. The battlefield offers a chance, however slim. Desertion offers only a different, more certain kind of death. So you stay, you march, you drink. You cling to your superstitions and your dark jokes. You build those walls in your mind a little higher every day. You don't do it for France. You don't do it for Napoleon. You do it because the man next to you is doing it, and because the alternative is a bullet in the back of the head or a slow death alone in a ditch. Morale isn't something you have. It's something you perform. It's a desperate, ongoing act of collective self-deception, a pact to pretend you are still men and not just sentient meat, marching in time to the beat of a drum that is counting down the seconds until you, too, are broken. You are not a patriot. You are a survivor, and the primary survival skill is learning how to go numb. You think there's a way out. You think that when the fear gets too loud, when the hunger becomes a sharp-toothed animal chewing on your bones, you can just leave. You can drop your musket, turn your back on the drums and melt into the trees. It's a beautiful, seductive dream. It's also a death sentence. There is no way out of Napoleon's army. Not alive. The machine you are a part of is a self-sealing tomb. It cannot afford to have cracks, because one crack today becomes a flood tomorrow. So they make the walls of the tomb so thick, so terrifying, that the hell inside feels safer than the hell of trying to escape. The temptation is a ghost that walks with you. It sits on your shoulder during the endless march, its voice a soft whisper in your ear. Just step aside, just fall behind. The forest is right there. No one will notice. It screams at you when you see a boy from your village take a cannonball full in the chest, his components scattered across the mud. Run, while you still can. It whimpers inside you when you wake up shivering, your toes black and numb, knowing the surgeon's saw is the next stop. Anything is better than this, even death. but it's lying. It's always lying. Because they hunt you. They don't just let you go. Desertion is the ultimate sin. It's not just cowardice, it's theft. You are stealing the Emperor's property, yourself. And for that, the price is paid in public, in blood and in terror. You've seen it. You've been forced to stand in the square and watch. A man, just a boy really, with the face you remember sharing a joke with, is dragged out in front of the assembled regiment. His uniform is stripped of its buttons, his insignia torn off. He is made less than a soldier. He is made an example. The firing squad is a formality, a ritual. The officer reads the charge, the sentence. The boy is offered a blindfold. Sometimes he takes it, sometimes he doesn't. You can see his legs shaking. You can smell the sharp, sour scent of his fear even from where you stand. The squad raises its muskets. The clicks of the locks being cocked are the loudest sound in the world. The officer's sword flashes in the sun. A drop of his hand, the volley, a short, sharp, unified crack. The boy jerks, stumbles, collapses. Sometimes it takes more than one volley. They shoot until he stops moving. The silence that follows is heavier than the cannon smoke. It's a silence that says, this is what leaving looks like. Sometimes when the army needs to remind everyone who's in charge, they don't just punish the deserter. They punish the unit. They use decimation. They line up a company or a battalion and they count off every 10th man. 1 in 10. It doesn't matter if he thought about running. It doesn't matter if he was a model soldier. His number came up. Bad luck. The lottery of death, this time administered by your own side. Those men are executed by their own comrades. You stand there, praying your number isn't called, and you understand the true deep meaning of the word trap. You're not just trapped by the enemy in front of you. You're trapped by the machine behind you. It owns you, body and fate. And what if you make it? What if you somehow slip past the pickets, evade the gendarmes and find yourself alone in a foreign land? You think you're free, you're a ghost, you have no papers, no money, the language is a garble of hostile sounds. The locals, if they find you, will either turn you in for a reward or beat you to death in a ditch for eating their turnips. You're a stray dog in a world of wolves. You will starve, you will freeze, or you will be caught by a patrol and the whole ugly spectacle will play out anyway, just in a different location. Surrender is no escape either. You think laying down your arms means a warm meal and a cot until the war ends. You are a child. Prisoner of war camps are just slower, more bureaucratic versions of the grave. You are crammed into pens, starved, beaten for sport by guards who are barely human themselves. Disease rips through the crowded, filthy conditions. You die of typhus, of dysentery, of simple, untreated neglect. If you're captured by the Cossacks, your death will be a form of entertainment. There is no Geneva Convention. There is no humanity. You are a problem to be stored, and if you conveniently die, the problem solves itself. So you look at the trees, and you see not freedom, but a different shape of death. A slower one, perhaps, but a more certain one. You feel the weight of your musket, and you understand it is not just a weapon. It is your ticket to stay inside the machine. And as long as you are inside the machine, you are fed, however poorly. You are surrounded by other men, however broken. You have a chance, however slim, of seeing the next sunrise. The machine offers a grim, statistical probability of survival. Desertion offers a certainty of a bloody, lonely end. The trap isn't just the army. It's the entire world. There is no out. There is only through. Through the mud, through the blood, through the fear. You're caught between the anvil of the enemy and the hammer of your own command. So you lower your head. You bite down on the leather strap of your own life. You march, not because you are brave, not because you are loyal, but because the walls of the trap are lined with bayonets, and the only direction you're allowed to move is forward, into the fire. The only way out is the one you carry on your back in the form of a musket ball meant for someone else, or eventually for you. They didn't get medals, they didn't get statues in the town square, their names carved in marble, for pigeons to shit on. Most of them didn't even get a grave. Just a shallow, unmarked ditch, if the ground was soft and their comrades weren't too exhausted to dig, or left for the wolves and the crows if it wasn't. They were the gears in the machine, the ones that clogged with mud, ground down from the friction, and were replaced without a second thought. They weren't the strategists standing over maps in crisp uniforms. They were the ones who made the lines on those maps with the soles of their ruined feet and the stains of their last moments. No one wrote sonnets for the boy from Provence who curled into a frostbitten ball on the Russian steppe, his final breath a small white cloud that vanished into a vast indifferent sky. No one serenaded the young drummer boy at Waterloo who bled out face down in a puddle, his drum still humming from the last beat, mixing the sounds of his death rattle with the fading echo of the charge. They weren't heroes in the way we think of heroes. They were desperate, hardened, often broken men who didn't ask to be remembered. They just wanted to make it to the next day, the next meal, the next dry sock, and so many didn't. And yet, here we are, you and I, in our warm, quiet rooms, with our full stomachs and our soft beds. This piece, this ordinary, boring, beautiful piece, was carved from the agony of men we will never know. We fantasize about the glory, the uniforms, the banners snapping in the wind, but we forget the price. We forget that every inch of that glory was paved with suffering. It was paid for with blistered feet on a frozen road, with the taste of weevils in hardtack, with the sound of a friend's screams being swallowed by cannon fire. So what do we do with that? What do we do with the debt we can never repay? We remember them, not as marble demigods frozen in victory poses, but as humans, flawed, frightened, fierce when they had to be, as boys torn from their farms, their hands still smelling of soil, as criminals given a musket instead of a trial, as fathers who never got to return home to see their children grow, as people who asked to give everything for an empire that often gave them nothing in return but a shallow grave in foreign soil. Respect doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it comes with silence. The kind of silence that falls over you when you truly understand. The kind that fills the space when you realize that someone once froze to death in his sleep so that you could sleep warm generations later. The kind that humbles you when you remember that your worst day, your most terrible, horrible, no good day, wouldn't have lasted a single hour in one of theirs. So the next time you see a reenactment, all polished brass and neat lines, don't just see the glory. See the mud caked between the threads of that uniform. Smell the hunger on their breath. Hear the shivering in the cold. Feel the absolute soul-crushing hell of it all. And remember that for every grand portrait of Napoleon, staring off toward destiny, there are 10,000 anonymous men buried under the snow, in the mud, or simply forgotten by history. They didn't march for fame. They marched because they had to. They were the foundation. The anonymous, the forgotten, the spent. The true enduring monument to Napoleon's army is not the Arc de Triomphe. It is the quiet, comfortable peace we now take for granted. A peace built on a mountain of broken bodies, a river of spilled blood, and an ocean of forgotten tears. No heroes, just survivors. And if you slept warm last night, it is because someone, once, froze in your place,